Maybe he has done this, but then he's also a loving father, he's also a caring man, all that. Hitler also a good man, honestly.
He was a great painter. Should Nagaenthran be given clemency? This is your daily catch-up. Hey guys, if you're not already subscribed, do remember to hit that sub button and also that notification button since it's right next to it.
Oh, that's true.
Thank you.
And then the like button is right above it.
And then you can comment below. Comment a bit hard lah. Just type I'll go.
Challenge everything Dan is saying.
So this episode is kind of a follow-up from a previous one that we did on the death penalty. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because when we kind of addressed that the topic, there was actually an ongoing case that we didn't talk about, and it's one of a...
They haven't happened yet when we were filming. Or haven't hit the news yet.
Yeah, because he's been on death row for a while. So it was of an ongoing case of a 33-year-old man named Nagaenthran Dharmalingam. And the reason why it's a little bit complicated is because his defense is saying that he has low IQ and that it is constitutionally or inhumane to put someone who is intellectually disabled, and I think that's up for debate, but it is inhumane to basically put someone that's intellectually disabled on death row. The latest news that we have so far at the time of filming this is that there was a stay of the execution because he is COVID positive. But that stay is indefinite lah.
So we are revisiting this episode because we have Dr Geraldine here with us. She's a psychologist, and I think we have a lot of questions in that regard.
No, I think mainly because the reason why his death penalty is being contested is because of the mental issues, right? Yeah. So that's what we're
it's contested by the public lah, right?
Why people are saying it's immoral is because they are saying that he had no idea that he was committing a crime, and therefore why should he be killed for a crime that he wasn't actively committing, in a sense.
Right. But that's an assumption lah, right?
So that is his appeal, is it?
Yeah.
So just to go through some of the timeline of events, it's quite long. It happened in 2009. So when Nagaenthran was 21 years old, right, he was arrested with a bundle of heroin strapped to his left thigh. And so he confessed to committing the crime, but he stated in his statement that he was under duress by a mastermind who assaulted him and threatened to kill his girlfriend. And he also claimed that he did so to get money to pay off his debts. And after he later denied any knowledge of the bundle's content.
So he didn't know it was drugs lah.
Yeah. So this was in 2009. The next year after that, he was sentenced to death. And the sentence was that it was because he was convicted of trafficking 42.72 grams of heroin. And the limit is 15 grams. So it was almost
three times
that amount lah. So in 2011, the appeal of the conviction and the sentence was dismissed. So the appeal itself was dismissed. But the execution was put on hold because Singapore was like kind of revising its laws with regards to the death penalty. And so by 2013, the laws was changed to say that the judge has discretion to impose life terms and caning for drug couriers instead of death if specific conditions were met.
Right.
Yeah. In 2015, after the laws were revised, Nagaenthran applied to be resentenced under the new regime, and also on the grounds of low IQ, mental impairment, and his defense of duress. And he also tried to challenge, because before this, the prosecutor didn't certify him as a courier. And so now that there's new laws applied to couriers, he wanted to be like recertified lah. In 2017, after considering the facts and also expert evidence from 4 psychiatric and psychological experts, the High Court held that Nagaenthran knew what he was doing. One of the examples was because he concealed the drugs under his jeans. So he knew that he was breaking the law by doing it. If not, you would have just like carried it in your hands, essentially. So of that 4 psychiatric and psychological experts, right, one of them was called by the defense, and they also said that Nagaenthran was not intellectually disabled.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Who said that? Sorry.
One of the 4 experts, but this was the one called by the...
Yeah, because some people will say, all of the people are from your side ma, so they might feel like it's biased.
I think in general, the experts, including one that was called by the defense, all said that he was not intellectually impaired or disabled. So then 2 years after that, in 2019, the High Court's decision was affirmed by the Court of Appeal, which said that Nagaenthran clearly understood the nature of his acts. Again, like I mentioned, so it was because he concealed the bundle, which showed that he knew what he was doing was unlawful. And then by taking the deal in order to pay off his debts and also hoping to receive like a further sum of money upon successful delivery, right, it showed the working of a criminal mind this is a quote by the way, weighing the risks and countervailing benefits associated with the criminal conduct in question. So it basically showed that he knew what he was getting into lah.
Have you ever been asked by like the Singapore justice system to evaluate?
Yeah.
Oh, so stressful, huh?
But I don't have to stand in the courts or anything like that. So I don't need to be an expert witness or anything. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the psychological reports, that one we do. So to be qualified as intellectual impairment, he needs to have an IQ of lower than 60.
Right.
But if,
Wait, he's 69 though. So he's above.
There are different levels. Yeah. There are
But
different
if
levels.
let's say like right now if I'm in trouble already, right? Like with the law and then I cannot fake an IQ test one.
You can. There's malingering lah. But we will report the IQ as is because it is data. But there are behavioral signs and symptoms lah.
Right.
Right. So as in the test is not just a IQ test lah. Like there are different assessments.
Qualitative.
Yeah, what is the
evaluations.
process like to evaluate this?
There would probably be the IQ test. There will probably be the personality test. If they suspect that there is depression, there will be the depression scales. So there will be a battery of tests that they need to subject him to. So poor thing, he was subjected to 4 times over.
Right. The IQ test is like a written paper.
No,
like,
so
what?
it's administered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the person is in front of us and we administer the test to them.
Okay.
But isn't it like a lot of number patterns and all that stuff? Or is that just internet rubbish?
That's the internet IQ test.
That's
I mean,
BuzzFeed,
that's the only one I've ever
Yes.
Okay.
So that one, if you do, most of us come out as geniuses.
Oh my
God.
So you're saying it's not real?
Our actual IQ number would have been way lower.
Oh, no.
So what's an example IQ question, like assessment question?
I'm bounded by copyright laws.
Okay, then the next question relating to this is, what does low IQ mean?
Low IQ is a lay person's term. So they were talking about intellectual impairment. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you down.
Whatever.
Please do not put me down later on.
Do you need to see a
No, never mind. Say. Tell the layperson what.
No, but it's comprehensible to every one of us, whether it's low or average or high, right?
Okay.
But when they say impairment, there must be some dysfunction somewhere.
Okay.
And for IQ, there would be different areas. So there's the working memory, there's the verbal comprehension, there's the perceptual reasoning, there's the visual spatial, and there's the processing speed.
So if
We don't know which areas is. It could be all of the 5 areas are depressed, or it could be that one area is significantly lower than the rest.
Right.
So like the reasoning behind the defense is saying that he has low IQ, he doesn't know what he's doing. Is that a sound defense given your understanding of like someone with low IQ?
So IQ is only one component. Yeah, but I heard like he had an age pegged to him or something like that.
Yeah, they
right?
said that his mental capabilities was kind of equivalent to an 18-year-old.
So they probably have done other tests. So it's a battery, so he's probably done other tests that had an age equivalent and we could see. So at 18 years old, you would need a certain ability, right? So even though his IQ may be low, it is correct for that particular age.
Right.
Of an 18-year-old. So the ability to comprehend maybe of that 18-year-old.
Okay.
But so what you're meaning to say is that if an 18-year-old was subject to the same situation as him, right, they could very well understand what they were doing is unlawful.
Yes.
Right.
I mean,
Yes,
it's the
it
legal
is
age also lah.
possible. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It is noted here that that mental aids assertion, right, wasn't actually by a clinical expert. It was actually of the opinion of his lawyer.
Yeah. So
Which was damn weird also.
How do they even
Okay.
I was doing research on this, right, and nowhere could I find any like official like news report or whatever that was stating his actual IQ or like where he went to get tested, all these details. So if you have, like, really like put down below because I really cannot find. So that's
Yeah.
the most sus part.
It's not sus, no. Because when we do it, typically it's not broadcasted in the newspapers or anywhere else to preserve the integrity of the client.
So then how do I really know whether then the lawyer can anyhow quote any age and no one will be able to say anything?
The reports go to the lawyers and also go to the judge.
All right.
So it goes directly.
Which is probably why the appeal didn't go through.
But in this case, in the court of public opinion, where every news outlet that you see covering this, right, is saying, he has IQ of 69, when it's not substantiated.
But not everybody knows how to read the numbers. So
it's true.
a number 69 doesn't mean anything to anyone.
It does to some people.
Why are you pointing fingers?
I know anything. He loved that he tried to push. He loved that he tried to redirect instantly.
Right.
Horrible.
It can be any number. It can be 40. It can be 70. It can be 150.
And
but
yet
it doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
What do you mean it doesn't mean anything?
It doesn't mean anything to the people who don't understand what the numbers mean. It needs to be interpreted.
Yeah. Then the other issue that they were bringing up is ADHD, right? So I'm just wondering, what exactly is ADHD for people who don't know? And how does that factor into this situation?
ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
I always lose that middle H part because you always think that it's attention deficit disorder.
There is that ADD, different one. I'm not different. Subset. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
How about subtract?
Anyway, you subtracted the H.
No, yeah. So sorry for the layman, right? What does this mean?
She proud of her own jokes.
So what's the layman explanation for what ADHD is?
ADHD is a clinical learning disorder.
Okay.
There are actually 3 types. So the restless impulsive type, and then there's the inattentive, which is the ADD, attention deficit disorder. They are usually the very careless, spacey, always forget this, forget that sort of personality.
But that can sound like a very generic child though, like just a excited child.
There are more stuff than that lah.
Right.
She's giving the layperson explanation.
Okay.
Yeah.
The combined presentation. So the restless impulsive plus the inattentive.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then my question is how does that play into this? Because if I have ADHD, then that means I can be unaware that I'm committing a crime, eh?
They might, I'm not sure, They may be going out on a limb to say that he is impulsive and did not consider the consequences, which might be, possible, risk-taking behavior. I don't consider the consequences. I would just, go in for the thrill. I'm not sure whether this was one of the areas that
So I wanted to ask, because here we have a case of a legal defense using mental health as a defense essentially for committing a crime. And we've seen a lot of cases where people are committing crimes and then they're being referred to IMH to see whether they should be put in jail or not, or if there should be other form of treatments, right? Just to play a devil's advocate here,
as a practitioner, do you feel like it's being abused?
Is it being abused?
Okay, I won't deny that there when something comes up, people will want to use it to their advantage, as with many human behavior, right? But we also have research that many of the past inmates, that means those that are incarcerated, have undiagnosed learning issues, and therefore it has caused them all these problems. They are impulsive, they're restless, they do things and they don't think about the consequences. So there has been research that many of them have ADHD. So we cannot stop people from borrowing this research and using it to their advantage.
Right.
But so then how much of an excuse or how much sympathy should we be giving to perpetrators, right, who are struggling with mental health issues?
Yeah, so no, actually I read up about this a little bit, right? And apparently it's not as easy as it sounds. It's not like I just say I got some mental problem, then I will straight away be re-evaluated and taken to a different facility and re-sentenced. Right. So it's actually very difficult to prove. I don't know the exact number, but the number is a lot smaller than we think for the people that are actually going through this route to re-evaluate their mental state.
This is where I struggle with, right? I think it's a bit like what Denise is mentioning, which is that I want there to be more normalcy with regards to mental health awareness, and I want us to be sympathetic to those who are suffering from mental health problems, right? But then at the end of the day, these guys committed crimes also. So just because they have ADHD and they weren't aware of the consequences, right? Like, where do we draw the line between rehabilitating a criminal or using consequences to punish them?
What we try to work towards is to try and match the consequence to the behavior also, and whether it makes sense to them. If they are having a disorder and you tell them, oh, I'm going to flog you, it's not going to work for them.
Right.
But if you cause them pain in other areas, like, oh, okay, you did this, but we are going to put you through community service and you have to do this regularly and train yourself, that will definitely cause them more pain. Because there's so many of the youths that have gone through the system in the past. Beat law, never mind lah, I can tahan, no? I was afraid before, and this is what one youth actually said. Last time I was scared, but now I know my way around. Anyway, I got bro inside. And I got like, whoa. Yeah, I've got someone to look after me.
Right.
Beat lah, then after that, after a while...
Beat as in what? Cane.
Cane.
Right.
Yeah, cane lah. After that, heal already, then okay lah. Nothing what.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
That is a problem because they have not learned that they should not commit the same crime.
No, like that aside, I mean, as a mental health issue, is that a mental health issue? Because I see some level of resilience in there, some level of adaptability in there, you know what I mean?
They have not learned that whatever that they do is wrong, and probably this particular one that I have in mind was needing of love, was needing of affection,
Right.
And the secret society gave him that. You
Right.
know,
For better or for
probably,
worse, right.
Yeah.
I think my personal opinion is that, so I mean, after we did the first episode on the death penalty, I had a friend from school who like sent me a really like kind message, but he also said that he kind of disagreed with what we talked about lah, because he feels like we didn't explore quite a lot of the different elements that are involved when people are sentenced the death
Example?
penalty. So he's saying that I think there's a lot of socio-economic factors that are involved, and if you look at a lot of the cases, they all tend to be minorities or foreigners. He's basically saying, I think we need to pause and consider whether there's something larger out there lah. On another extreme, whether you like it or not, Critical Spectator also talked about this incident, and he said those people who are saying that this is a larger issue at play and it's about poverty and we should solve that, is doing a great injustice to people who are poor and manage to get out of poverty without like falling to crime.
Interesting.
And I think they are both right. It's confirmed by a recent video I watched on Marshall News actually.
Hey.
They are go-to. They went for a Lee Kuan Yew video.
Yeah, I think that video, Lee Kuan Yew was basically mentioning, right, like Amnesty International said like Singapore has the largest amount of death sentences per capita, and he said death per capita of what?
Yeah.
Per capita of this specific person of a specific country coming into Singapore.
Dutchman and Chinese woman in Nigeria.
He's scared to say that, you just say it.
Tiptoeing.
I mean, Lee Kuan Yew said it, we're just quoting him.
Right, that's true. And so I think it's very nuanced because I'm hearing both sides of this, and I really sympathize for both sides of the argument, which is why I'm really struggling with this case.
I think it's like the personal value system comes in with individualism, which is not wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Or collectivism. And I think because Singapore is very much a collectivist society, we demonize individualism. It's not a wrong thing. It's just another way to think about things. It's not being selfish and thinking about yourself. Another way to look at it is looking at every member of society as opposed to society as one. Yeah, and so it really depends on where we are going this line. And then I think in Singapore, because we are so much collectivist-ish, we have to look at the families. Because I remember speaking to one of the ministers about what drugs do to families. I was very privileged to be able to meet some of them and ask them like stupid random questions, right? There's like very FAQ on the website one, right? Where like, for example, if someone were to try and make 10K off smuggling drugs, why do they have to die when we know for a fact these fellas are not producing drugs? And then he painted a story and he kind of showed me, he sent me some links after that, which kind of helped me really better understand why, how do drugs affect this family and affect these families for like generations lah. So basically, right, you look at 15 grams of something, then you can die, right? And 15 grams feels like, I mean, if we bake, right, then you all know that 15 grams is like a few powder, right? But then 15 grams is enough to feed like 100 addicts across a week or something like that, or like a month, something like that one.
I think we mentioned in the previous episode, it depends on how the 15 grams is calculated. So if I'm not wrong, majority of the time it is like 15 grams of this specific ingredient.
No, but that's for weed.
No, I think it's across the board. Like even heroin is not the whole thing is heroin. I think I mean, I don't know drugs.
Like, do you include the
You seem to be an
packaging?
expert on this.
Yeah, but then the whole idea is that this guy is going to die for this. Like what you're both talking about, right? If you all are trying to focus on the bigger picture issue here, then why are you going to kill this one man who's just a pawn? Or the other way around, when you look at just him as an individual, the whole argument that people are trying to bring in is like, who is he as a person and whatnot, this kind of thing. And there are so many other facets to him. He's a human being.
All the pictures that are used of him in the petition are him with his daughter, all this kind, right?
My thing is that if the psychologists have deemed him that he was aware of the consequences,
Which he wasn't on the panel, by the way.
is not the
just to
psychologist.
clarify.
but if he was aware of the consequences, and even though I may not necessarily agree to have the death penalty in regards to drug offences, right?
Yeah.
Like you had it coming lah. Like if you knew that it was illegal, you put it, you concealed it. Like I feel like you knew what was coming. You know.
To be a skeptic also, right? I feel like his story, his backstory of being under duress, like the girlfriend being threatened, all this, is not substantiated. If someone has actual proof, right, or like knows someone who actually
But you
said
can't prove
this is
that,
what
what?
happened. Yeah, so then
It's like sexual
I
assault.
can just
though.
make up any story and then I'm gonna get away with trafficking drugs.
But sexual assault also like that though.
But there are sexual
You can
assault
just tell
test
your.
though, like,
I mean, you can tell your account of the story, which is very hard to.
But then,
Verify the law
okay,
is to
if
protect
we are
that.
going that far to argue this, right, then who's to say that a corrupt policeman did not pin this on him in 2009?
Of all these years, he wouldn't only be giving statements to one policeman. Like he'll be giving statements to different policemen. Like why didn't he say this to another
right.
policeman about this? And why didn't his lawyers bring it up as a defense also?
True.
Yeah, because his girlfriend, his whole family will die.
But he already kena caught already.
No, but you're saying what if the
Yeah,
policeman
but
is pinning
I'm
this?
not going to ever say that, because I know that if I ever do and this gets out, the corrupt policeman that sabotaged me will kill my family.
Oh, you're saying the policeman is the mastermind,
Potentially somebody or just
Wow,
another player
that's a bit
involved
cynical lah.
Wait, then why does he need to smuggle drugs from Singapore into Singapore?
Wait, yeah.
Yeah, I think too far.
I'm so confused.
Why Singapore to Singapore?
Like if the corrupt person is
If I'm
a
the dealer,
Singaporean
then I need
policeman.
somebody a mule to bring my drugs in so I can go and distribute.
Oh. I don't know so much about drug smuggling.
No, that's basic. Like
Basic,
any other
basic.
business you can.
I think alluding to what you're talking about, right? Like you're saying there's so many different facets to this one person, right? Does like what is the measure of a life though? Let's not go there.
No, I think what was interesting to me when John Paul talked and I had this conversation off camera, right, about how people are saying, hey, he maybe he has done this, but then he's also a loving father, he's also a caring man, all that. Hitler also good man, honestly.
It was a great painter.
Yeah. No, as in, but there was this like question that people post online, like who would you pick as a leader, right? And then they listed their character traits, and then the person with the best character traits, right, was Hitler.
Right.
So
With
then-
not knowing who the identity
Not
was,
knowing the
right?
identity. So then this argument like cannot be brought across like that. What?
Plain-
Sorry, I take it back that I said Hitler's a good person, okay? So
Playing devil's advocate again and again, reading from Critical Spectator, right? What he said was that what was very interesting is that a majority of people who are petitioning, right, to either stop the death penalty or particularly for this case are usually the very left-wing crowd, which I am a part of. But they are also the same crowd. So they're trying to preserve life, right? But they're also the same crowd that's for abortion.
interesting.
And so they're not necessarily about preserving life.
No, therefore preserving the
You're gonna fuck
therefore
with me.
they're preserving
playing
the
devil's
already
advocate, that's why I
alive.
quickly I said that out loud. I'm not playing devil's advocate.
You still get fucked
shit.
anyway.
Preserving the already alive life.
Okay, what caught me on this incident, right? I mean, beyond the mental deficits, right, was that he was sentenced so many years ago, and he's just sitting there waiting for someone else to tell him, okay, that no more. Because correct me if I'm wrong, you don't know when they'll, for example, hang you that far out in advance, right? They'll just tell you a few days before, right? So they don't torture you.
This whole case was brought up because his family was notified of his execution date.
And also,
Right.
sorry, just to add, right, to your point before you continue, right, is that every single time, if I'm not, I don't know whether it applies to Singapore, but I know in several other countries, if anybody's on death row, right, there is a way in which every time you want to challenge it, right, they have to process every single challenge. So they have to
Right.
keep delaying it.
Right.
So as long as somebody keeps contesting it, right, they will have to, no matter what, right, they have to approach that new contention, right,
Right.
from scratch. Yeah.
That
To be
seems like
fair
a
lah,
loophole
right?
though.
Yeah.
That seems like a loophole. Like you can just keep
But then they make it cost money, I guess, and that's how they deplete you.
Right. So it's like a filibuster.
But it's also an opportunity for them to prove their innocence, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Like shit.
Absolutely.
And her voice so soothing
That's
some
why
more.
they pay you the big bucks, is it?
Why you laugh like that?
You cut right through everything. all felt like shit. Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Can't come back from that.
You make me look like Hitler.
Hey, no, but Denise said killer's a good person.
Hey, no,
Yes,
I
yeah.
take it back.
Have you ever been called to, like, for example, counsel inmates or inmates on death row specifically?
No, not inmates on death row, but inmates, yeah.
Right. What are some of the stuff you think that like they go through that we don't think about?
I don't think it's very easy for them, because their world is very different from our world. They only know what they know, right? They either know maybe the drug trafficking world, maybe they only know aggression. So when we go in, they look at us and they go like, we are aliens to them, But they are basically not bad people. But sometimes the media or the whole system just brands them as bad people.
And sessions with inmates, for example, and sessions with non-inmates, does it feel different to you? Does it feel like it's harder to get them to open up, for example?
Oh, are they resistant? Actually, surprisingly, they are very happy to come for sessions.
Oh, they come to you.
No. So when there would be the psychologists in the prisons or the external counselors, and they would come out from whatever they're doing for the session. So within the compound.
So it's a break from their routine, lah.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so they are actually quite happy to come for sessions.
Would you say the prison system contributes a lot to mental health? Like, would you say being in the prison system contributes to mental health deterioration?
If you're being incarcerated and you're being isolated, yes, it's a consequence, but isolation, as we all have experienced during these 2 years, does cause a lot of deterioration where you feel anxious, you feel very claustrophobic, you feel lonely.
Do you feel that to the point it affects rehabilitation? For example, the prison system is collapsing on itself, like in that sense, right?
They try not to, so they recognize it. And they actually do have a lot of group activities and they have work for them to do. So they are not isolated. They are trying to be very encouraging.
Right.
On another note, right, like bringing it back to your friend's point, there are a lot of things that are not being considered, right? What was interesting to me when reading up this case was that there was actually a stop on all death penalties because the government was reviewing the whole mandatory death penalty thing. I feel like even as the government or we as a country, right, were firm on death penalty, even then in the background there's research being done, there's things being considered, and then in this case they did revise laws also. Right?
Yeah.
So that was interesting to me. And I think it also goes to remind me that like the law is really not just so black and white law, even when all these things come into play.
Like, it's not as though we just inherited it and then we're just not going to touch it. Like, it was reviewed, and the fact that they still came to the point where they still felt that death penalty was important to still keep. I thought that was interesting, whether or not you disagree with it or not lah.
The most recent update about this case is that he kena COVID.
Yep.
So then because of that, then they delay the death sentence lah. Then on the internet, people making noise say like, you want him to recover and be healthy so you can kill him, eh?
Interesting what the public say. How do you feel or like assess the mental health of Singapore's internet? Do you feel like everyone is
That's a
a
great
little
question.
bit fucking deranged and cynical?
But it's all around the world, right? You have keyboard warriors, you have people that are trollers. They feel that they can have an opinion, they type out their opinion, they just shoot and they don't think of any consequences, or they want to defend someone else, but they are so enraged, right? So I had one of the guys coming to me and say, can you please help me, because every time I see a comment, I just feel so angry, and it's online.
Oh my god, so they are self-aware.
They are self-aware.
Even if the
yeah.
comment's not directed at said person. Oh, that's so strange, that's so hard, especially if they're
Yeah.
self-aware. What's your advice for that? Get off the internet.
empathic. He cannot. So it is not his responsibility. So we came to that point where it is not your responsibility to defend every single person that is on the internet.
Right.
Or what about something a little bit more relatable for everybody, like including us, right? But anybody who has social media, right? Sometimes you're gonna get negative comments, people hitting on you and whatnot. Like, how can you deal with that?
So when it does, and I actually experienced that, right? Because I was commenting on one of the on the RV case, and it was on the big story, and I think people were very mean. But one of the things that we need to remember is this person doesn't know you, doesn't know head or tail about whatever where the comments are coming from, but they can have their own opinion. But we are not responsible for their opinion, so we don't need to be upset about it.
It's so hard though. Like you just said, like like they don't know who you are.
They don't know. They have no idea. So they
like,
make a comment about you. Yeah.
So like I'm obviously new to the camera, like as of this year, right? And so I think like the first time I've seen comments about that, like just being meta, like okay fine but like I mean like with other stuff, right? But I think like seeing comments that maybe disagree with you and are a little bit harsh, right? Yes, they don't know who you are. I almost feel like I want to show who I am because like get to know me, and then that whatever comment that you say is wrong.
But they're not interested in getting to know you.
Yeah.
Because if they are, they would respond quite differently. But they want to make their voice heard. That 1 second of fame on that statement, you see. Yeah. And they are entitled to it because internet is free for everyone, right? Yeah, so if we are trying to defend ourselves, if we are trying to put ourselves out there to comment back again, then it gets very messy, because then what are we trying to prove? Yeah. Then I would wonder what we are trying to do for ourselves.
Yeah, I was gonna ask also, like, why do you feel like you need to prove yourself in some way that this is the person I am, come and get to know me?
Yeah. No, I was just saying because like your initial advice was that like they don't know you, so you don't need to be upset.
Correct.
But I think thinking about that is quite hard to settle the mind. But I think when you said that it's about them trying to get that few seconds of fame, then I think the mind is settled. In that sense.
The mind is
then
settled.
pay out lah.
How much again? So I thought it was quite interesting that you mentioned like a lot of people, that we didn't see a lot of comments of people saying, hey, like we need to abolish the death penalty. In 2018, they found that 76% of respondents in the survey in Singapore actually believe that the death penalty is more effective than life imprisonment, for example.
Because the death penalty is so definite, right? And I feel like over time, laws keep changing and crime is dictated by society, the way society functions also, So there will come a time where, like Kim Kardashian right now is trying to be a lawyer so that she can do what? So she can save the people, right, who are in prison, right, who kena because of like cannabis and all this kind of thing,
Right.
Like she's trying to help these people, which I think is completely fair, yeah.
Like Sorayong. He's taking law so they can help. He wants to specialize in defamation cases.
So he can defend himself.
He said that on his Instagram story.
Oh, his own case as well. Yeah.
No, but I think so like time changes, right? Like I think there are so many things that are happening. Like for example, if say now, right, we really end this guy's life like next week, and then 6 months down the road, right, we really find out that during 2009 there was this whole thing that was going down that was bigger than this one person's story. There was a bigger picture that was happening, and he was just part of it. Yeah, then that completely sucks, right?
No, but does that take away his personal responsibility?
It totally doesn't, which is why life imprisonment, but not death, because it's too definite for anything really.
There's definitely a lot of people think that way. Like, why would we do life imprisonment? We should abolish life imprisonment.
Oh, that's the opposite.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
Do tell.
then
It's true,
I
huh?
was not expecting that.
I mean, it is just an opinion. I'm not for or not against. It's up for discussion, right? But abolishing death sentence and you replace it with life imprisonment. But what does life imprisonment actually do? How does that actually help the
Like
inmate?
rehabilitate them
Yeah.
or punish them.
It's true. Because the point of death penalty is removal from society.
Yep.
Technically,
And
life imprisonment does the same.
Also does the same.
Yeah, lor. So it functions in that way as a punishment. I think there are two different aspects to this. Of course, like I don't like the idea of punishment for the sake of punishment. But then if in this situation we bo pian, at least life imprisonment is not as definite as death. Death is definite, life imprisonment still got chance for like what I was saying, like if there are other factors involved that can get the person off, or proving them innocent like later on and shit like that, right? There are a lot more variables, and you give the person an opportunity.
So far, there's not been a case in all the so many death penalties that we've done. None have been overturned.
There were no new evidences to
Yeah.
overturn any of them.
Then the faith is in the justice system to do its part.
Because I mean, a lot of the narratives of anti-death sentence come from the States, right? Where they do have like police that, for racial reasons or just to close a case, just find some person of the same profile and just kind of force them into admission. And then 7 years later, they find out that, oh, it's the other guy. Which is something that is true lah. I mean, it's valid lah. It could happen to Singapore, maybe just not yet.
Yeah, I agree. But I think with that death penalty itself and a lot of other issues, right, even when it comes to, I think, racism, like people tend to take the narrative of other countries, maybe specifically the US, right, and then try to apply it with the same argument in Singapore when it's a different landscape. So, yeah, so I think that's something to consider also.
One thing Lee Kuan Yew said also in the same video is that even though it's a drug mule as opposed to a drug lord, the drug mule still tried his luck despite the death sentence because the rewards are that great.
Yep.
Sometimes we feel like, why do we then want to like give the death sentence to someone that's just transporting, right? It's like just a high-end career, right? But at the end of the day, it's like if you already know and you still do it, which is interesting also, that Singapore mandates that all incoming flights and all incoming transports into Singapore, you must warn all the tourists on every single flight coming into Singapore
No drugs.
that drugs carry a
death
penalty. Yeah.
Right.
And you still have a chance to surrender at custom.
Oh.
Yeah.
One last chance.
So it's in spite of all that people try because the reward is great enough.
Or if they're that desperate lah.
Yeah.
Or if they are that desperate.
Like, so the question that I have is that, like, how much, like, can a person be like under duress, like enough to want to risk this? If I say that I was forced to do this, right, where does that leave my personal responsibility then? Like, even though I was forced, I ended up choosing to do it, right? But then should they be pardoned because the circumstances were like also said they threatening to kill his girlfriend, all this kind of stuff?
I think if it was proven, I think they might do something differently. Because you really bo pian. If your whole family threatened and your only option, right, is to just cross this causeway, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Yeah. Cannot zao one lah. But you must be more clever lah. Try find a way to prove it lah.
So what if you bring the drugs so that the kingpin don't disturb you, but then you go to customs, you declare and say, I have to bring this in, I'm declaring it now, but there's somebody that has my girlfriend in. Like,
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Why he never call police?
Because he's Malaysian.
He's Malaysian.
No, as in, but then if the argument of he never call police because he's Malaysian, then why should he be executed here because he's Malaysian?
That's why I tell you how you know the police not involved. Conspiracy.
So my question, right, is that so many of the more high-profile cases go for psychiatric evaluation, right? And with the rising mental health conversation, should everyone who is being convicted or sentenced to a crime, right, should they be given the opportunity to go through this same evaluation?
The judge has actually been requesting for psychiatric evaluation for most of them.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not really getting exploited as much as the system is embracing the system.
Okay.
So there is a change, there is a move towards embracing the mental health and to ensure that they cover all bases and not
Right.
misjudge someone.
So actually, right, a suggestion for governance is that, you know, like how we all have like our medical cards, right, of our medical history and everything. Shouldn't then from a child, we should all have mental health cards to kind of see what we all have, so that it's not a reactive thing where someone commits a crime and then we're seeing whether they have all these like mental health issues.
From the RV case this year, right, I think from next year, every half a year, MOE is rolling out for all students to have checklist done.
Wow, so good.
That was
Yes.
like everything that we've been asking for actually.
Yeah.
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah.
Can I, like, for example, as a grown-ass adult, right, walk into, like, for example, your office and just ask for a whole battery of tests just to find out if there's something wrong with
Oh,
me?
that would be too expensive,
But
my dear.
If
No, if you ball in, if you ball in.
If you can afford it.
just to find out whether I have a mental deficit.
No,
Is there such a thing?
So
Do
we
people do
don't.
that?
So with the adults, that's why we advocate the checklist, where every 6 months you go in, you sit down with someone, and you talk about,
How you
yourself, your struggles, about anything.
Right.
Yeah, because like what you're asking for is you go to a doctor and you ask them to check
Like
for
full body
every
checkup.
single thing.
He's doing about
versus
DNA.
they can individually diagnose and then tell you what to
Wait,
check
but
for.
so
mah.
my concern
Right.
with this like mental health card suggestion, right, is like, is medicalization actually like helping or harmful? Right? Because I'm saying that, then everyone will think, oh, okay, I depressed or I got anxiety, and then there's this whole slew of issues.
It is a very valid question, but then you have people asking, should I go and test for cancer markers?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't really want to know. But it's the same vein of thought, right?
Right.
Yeah, so, if do I really want to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist to check whether I'm depressed or I have anxiety? Maybe neither, but do I really want to take the chance? I don't know.
Actually, I'm going to shoot my idea down. If we actually have a medical card, right, and everyone knows all their conditions, and then there is a case where someone got scot-free because they had ADHD, and I go, oh my god, I have ADHD, I can go and commit a crime.
Oh.
Because that's how the law works. Right? That's how common law works, right?
Because you will abuse what you can,
Precedent,
right?
what?
Human
Yeah,
nature.
you might open a loophole.
Okay, yeah.
This
This is why we are not the government.
If you're sitting
That's why they don't pay us the big bucks.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching, and most importantly, before I forget, thank you so much, Dr. Geraldine, for joining us in today's episode.
Thank you.
If you like what you watch, remember to drop us a sub, hit the notification, and like this video as well, and share us your thoughts on the death penalty in this case in general. We'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.